Hey everyone, welcome back to Dunk Talk. So in today's video, I'm going to discuss the current standings of the NBA playoffs, and I am specifically going to examine how the Western Conference play-in tournament will be determined. Now, with just about 2 weeks left in the 2022-23 NBA regular season, just 3 games separate the 4th seed in the Western Conference from the team in 12th place. Entering tonight's games, the Western Conference standings remain as tight as they have ever been, with about 2 weeks left in any NBA regular season. The Phoenix Suns and the Los Angeles Clippers are currently neck and neck for what seems to be the 4th seed, and the Golden State Warriors are just 1 game behind them at the 6th seed. That is likely to change considering that the Phoenix Suns still don't have Kevin Durant, and the Los Angeles Clippers recently lost Paul George to that gruesome hyperextension of the knee. Just 1 game behind the Warriors, though, is the 7th seed, which is the Minnesota Timberwolves, and even though they just lost Anthony Edwards, they got Karl Anthony Towns back. And just another half a game behind them are these 4 teams: the Dallas Mavericks, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the New Orleans Pelicans. And just a half a game behind these 4 teams leaves you with the Utah Jazz, who are looking to keep their playoff hopes alive. Unfortunately for the Portland Trail Blazers, they weren't even included in this video simply because they are quite a few games behind now. Now, with almost every team having just about 7 or 8 games remaining on their schedule, just 3 games separate the 4th seed in the Western Conference from the 12th place, which is why we are set up for one of the greatest finishes in the standings that we've ever seen in league history. Where each of these teams land in the standings will have a drastic effect on how their postseason plays turn out. And thus, of course, this will result in who will ultimately make the NBA Finals this year. Of course, I should mention that injuries have been playing a large part in this, so the West is truly wide open for the taking. Now, as if things could not get any crazier, the Clippers defeated the Thunder 127-105 on Thursday night, throwing a wrench into the standings once again. Now, as shown above, not only are the Clippers neck and neck with the Suns, but the Thunder dropped a game and a half in the standings, resulting in them being tied with the crazy competitive other teams being the Mavericks, the Lakers, and the Pelicans. Tonight, the Lakers and OKC have a game against each other, and you can imagine how grueling of a match this might be. Now, there are still games to be played, and some of these teams will play one another down the stretch run of the season, but right now, a 4-team tie is very unique and something that would take a lot of brains to try and decipher who actually makes the playoffs and who doesn't. Now, in case you guys don't know how the rules work, here are the official tiebreaker rules from the NBA on how the standings are determined, starting off with the tiebreaker rules for 2-way ties. Now here are the rules for multi-way tiebreakers. If there was to be a 4-way tie at the conclusion of the regular season, then the head-to-head won-loss percentage would come into play. We could realistically be looking at a scenario in which a team misses the playoffs or the play-in tournament as a result of another team that they are tied with defeating a second team that they tied with during the first month of the regular season back in November. So you can see how in-depth this goes and how crazy it might be. There are a couple of matchups coming up tonight and Saturday night that could once again drastically shift the standings in the Western Conference. Tonight's game between the Thunder and the Lakers will hold a lot of weight, as one team will either maintain their spot in the standings or fall out of the play-in region. You could essentially think of tonight's game as a play-in tournament because a loss could dramatically hurt their chances of making it into the playoffs. Also, losses by Dallas, Utah, Golden State, or Phoenix tonight could result in things becoming more complicated in regards to tiebreakers. Now on Saturday, the Clippers will take on the Pelicans in a game that both teams will need to win, but of course, one will have to lose. The Clippers could potentially jump Phoenix for the 4th seed with a win, but with a loss, they could easily fall into the 6th seed or even worse than that. As for the New Orleans Pelicans, a win could potentially move them up as far as the 7th seed in the conference, pending the results from the day before. So see, there are just so many moving pieces right now, and every game that these teams play down the stretch matters. So seriously, this is already turning out to be like a mini playoff series of games in its own way. Just one loss could result in a team going from being in the playoff picture entirely to falling down to the bottom of the play-in tournament region of the standings. a second loss could very well mean the end of that team's season. Now, if there is one thing that we know, it is that the NBA league offices are going all over these scenarios and notes for the tiebreakers this season because they are going to need all of them. All of these rules matter and all of these wins matter. In fact, all of these losses matter too. It'll be interesting to see which teams can withstand the battles ahead of them and who will reset their positions for next year.